What's going on, everybody? Carolina Combat back today. Today's special guest, Nathan Tomasello, NCAA champ. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, you've been coaching in a few different schools, college-wise, the past few years, and you're now transitioning to club. So, kind of, what has that transition been like, and what kind of motivated you to make this move?
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of it was to do this league, and what required to do this league for me was to be a little bit less involved with recruiting, a little bit more involved with focused training. And my real passion is developing guys, working hands on with athletes. And I think it's a good mix between focusing on my own training for some of these pro cards as well as focusing on developing the younger generation. I've had experience with college guys, I've had experience with elite high school kids. And to be honest, I think it's elite high school kids are more eager to learn and have less of an ego than I think some of the college guys, just because they want to develop, they want to keep getting better, and they're willing to learn from you. And I think it's fun because I've had my own club a little bit, and now transitioning back to that, I think it'll be a lot of fun because I'm in a pretty unique area that I think draws a lot of kids, and yeah, I think I find it more enjoyable a little bit working with younger generation guys that want to learn, that are in the transition to try to be a Division I athlete. So I think it's been good for my wife and I. It gives us a little bit better work life balance, and everything is, yeah, coming along. So
Yeah, you kind of, hinted on it earlier. How do you balance, your coaching responsibilities, and, with your own training for competition?
yeah, that was a big challenge this year because I still wanted to compete on the senior circuit as well as I was coaching at Cal Baptist University. And it's really challenging. I think, you don't think it is until you actually are doing it. But, I'm going on road trips to recruit kids and taking a lot of Zoom calls with kids as well as doing a lot of one-on-ones with kids. Then I'm trying to focus on my own development. And I think the challenge lies is the balance of trying to train as well as trying to recruit, because I think when you're doing that, it's really tough to really make gains. And I think I realized that at the end of the season. I wrestled at the Open this year, had a good performance, but wanted to win it, especially at 61, because if you didn't win that tournament, you're not going to Final X since Vito was sitting out. And so I lost a real tight one in the quarters to Marcus Blaze. And I told our head coach I definitely feel like I'm still at that level and I wanna pursue it as long as I can, or I believe I can win it. And there's only such a short time frame in my mind that you can do it at that type of level. And so I felt like it was the right thing for me and my family to keep focusing on just doing the best I can as an athlete, and then transition a little bit outside of the college coaching realm and focus more on just one-on-one private lessons with kids, developing kids, as well as focusing on just getting the right reps in myself as I do this pro league. So I think this thing could be really special for a lot of reasons, but one, just getting people's stories out there, right? Everyone has a story, but I feel like as you get out of college wrestling, there's not as much focus on senior level guys. Freestyle, it's tough to follow guys that go overseas, but now you got these big cards that they're having across the country at these arenas that you're trying to sell out. And I did a card back in February with Flow Wrestling in Iowa. It was on a random Wednesday, but they put together these big name cards. Obviously, Spencer Lee and Ono were the main show, but I was in one of the preliminary cards and I wrestled DeShazer, and it was awesome because they had 8,000 fans on a Wednesday, right? And
Right.
they had them on a raised platform, and I felt like it reminded me of my Buckeye days when I was starting out the lineup and going out there and competing against Nico Magalunas, Thomas Gilman, you name it, right? So that's why I think it really excites me as the RAF league, and I think where I'm at in life and where I want to be in the next couple of years, I think my true passion is continue to be the best version of myself as an athlete and develop guys, use my story to help younger generation guys that are eager to learn. And so, yeah, so that's long story short. That's kind of why I chose this route and why I think some of the best athletes are doing it. I know Seth Gross is kind of in that same situation. He was helping at Wisconsin and then he transitioned out and now he helps at a club and still competes internationally on the senior level. And so I kind of saw what he was doing. I felt like that might be the right thing for me. So
Yeah, speaking on RAF, you are set on August 30th to wrestle Matt Ramos. How did this matchup come about and what excites you about this matchup?
yeah, that one, this matchup I think is going to be a really exciting one for fans. He's got a really explosive style. He throws a lot of big moves at you, and he can catch you from any position. He's really sneaky. I've watched a lot of his film. Now that I know I'm competing against him, I've watched him over the years. He's had some common opponents between Spencer Lee and a few other guys. Um, and we never hit each other, right? And so I think for fans, I think it'll be a lot of fun because I've got a pretty explosive style. Not as much with big moves, but I try to put up a lot of points on the board and I try to attack as much as I can. And he's got a longer, lankier, explosive style. And so how it came about was we both signed up for the RAF league back in June, July, and I saw that the first card was coming to Cleveland, which is from my home. The Wolstein Center is 15 minutes from where I grew up. And I talked to Izzy Martinez and Chad Bronstein, and I was like, look, I want to be on that card. I think it could
Absolutely.
be real special for my hometown family, my hometown friends, and the people that supported me when I was younger. And so they're like, well, who do you want to wrestle? And I was like, Matt Ramos would be a fun card. And so they reached out to him. He said he was all in, and so they put together the card about a couple weeks ago, and I think it'll be great. There's a lot of fun matches, and that one should be great. So,
I know currently Matt Ramos is the focus, but is there any other guys in the league you'd maybe want to wrestle down the line?
well, Seth Gross and I are 1-1. He beat me at the 2019 Bill Farrell finals. I beat him in the 2023 World Team Trials. And so that'll be another fun matchup. I think they'd have a couple international guys that are. He talked about a couple international guys coming in. I wouldn't mind wrestling some of the Japanese guys, like the guy that won the Olympics. It'd be fun to wrestle him, Ray Iguchi. I think he'd be a fun opportunity to compete against. They have that Ono kid. I'd like to wrestle him, and yeah, we'll see who else signs up in the lightweight category. I wouldn't mind wrestling like Real Woods if there's a catch weight. He's another guy
Right.
that's really tough competitor. He's always a little bigger, but I mean, I wouldn't mind wrestling at like 140, So we'll see.
Yeah, building back into your college career for you as an athlete, when did you first believe that you could win a national title?
I had this conversation. It feels like yesterday, but is my sophomore year of high school. I was not really. So my freshman year was focused on wrestling, but also I was a soccer player. And then going into that summer, I got ready for Fargo, took third as a freshman in high school. And then, like, it kind of hit me like a light bulb moment. I was, really close to being with the best in the country. And I had a guy named Brian Dolph, who was a national champ out of Indiana, who lived in the area with his son, tell me he could give me private lessons. But it happened to be the same time as my soccer schedule in the fall. And I kind of thought about it and I was like, how far do I want to go with this? This guy's willing to do private lessons with me and help me develop. And, my goal from that point on was to get a scholarship and to win a national championship in college. And, I think when I first said that, it might have been a little bit lofty. But then when I got into Ohio State's room and I had a good true freshman year, I wrestled and won the Edinburgh Open, won the Clarion Open, went like 18-0 and made a junior world team in the spring. I started believing it, right? I was wrestling Logan Seaver, I was wrestling Reese Humphrey, I was wrestling Angel Escobedo, guys that had made the national finals, made a world team. right? Guys that were really tough, and I started gauging where I was. And as that year progressed, I started going closer matches with them. So I could tell I was starting to get to that next level. And I think that freshman year is the year that I really felt like, things started clicking. And then I think the match I'll tell you that made me really believe it was when I beat Jesse Delgado in the Big Ten semis. That match, he was the returning national champ, and we had a real tight match. I won 3-2, and that really made me believe, hey, I beat this guy. He just won it. I think I can win it. And so it was kind of that transition over the years that I felt like led up to that moment of putting a run together in St. Louis in 2015. So
You took a back-to-back years taking third. How important was it for you to go back and just get the next best thing?
yeah, I think a lot of athletes, and I've seen it over the years, they lose a heartbreaker in the semis. And, I had some really, really hard semis, great opponents. I felt like there was definitely opportunities where I could have punched my ticket to the finals. But, unfortunately, it's hard. There's a lot of variables that come into it. 2 of the 4 years I was injured going into nationals, and other things happen. But, when that happens, right, it always comes back to what your character is, right? Like, how do you hold yourself up if you lose? Like, what is your response? The hour or two after I lost, it was I still remember it was heartbreaking. You're really numb to the moment. There's a lot of emotions to it, but the more I thought about it, I had to make weight the next morning. I had to win the next two and take third, and I was like, what do I want to be remembered as? Right, the guy that loses in the semis and forfeits or doesn't wrestle, takes sixth, or the guy that comes back and finishes off the tournament the best he can, right? And I felt like as the captain of Ohio State's team all 4 years, that was my duty, is to show the young guys what it takes to and what a leader looks like, even if he doesn't get what he wants. And so, for me, that was some of the things I thought about as the night happened before Saturday's morning session in the Conti semis and for third. So,
How do those experience, help shape the way you coach today?
it gives me a great platform, right? I think I can emotionally connect with a lot of kids in a lot of ways, right? Going through bad injuries, trying to come back from those psychologically as well as physically. Also, getting to understand kids that sometimes fall short, and how do they come back from it, and how do they get better from it, and how do they learn from it, right? I also can connect with guys that have won Fargo, won nationals, won whatever, right? Because I feel like almost every tournament I've competed in, I've won in at least once, right? So I can connect with guys that have had a lot of success. I also can connect with kids that don't have a ton of resources, because I didn't. My high school program wasn't a huge program, well known. I would do two-a-days and go to my club. I drive an hour to get to my next club session to get better. And so I can connect with kids that, need extra help and are willing to do what it takes to get better. And so I think for me, that's what it does with my own career. Is being a first generation guy, I learned a lot of this stuff on the fly. And so I connect with kids a lot through that.
Yeah, winning that, national title, just what did that do for you as an athlete, achieving your, long time goal?
For the national championship.
Put you on this platform, and I could tell, especially going around the country or even around the world. I mean, there was people that recognized me in Italy when we went on a family trip in 2018. People recognized me all over the country, and not in a pride way. I just felt honored that people love watching the sport and can recognize, success, as well as, it gives me the opportunity to talk about what it takes, talk about my journey, and hopefully connect with them on a personal level. And yeah, really just help mold the next generation. I think that's been the cool part for me is, you're a well-known athlete. Now you get a chance to connect with people, not just on superficial level where they look up to you, but you really connect with them personally and help impact their life as they try to do the things you tried to do. So that's what I think what made the national title so special, as well as bringing Ohio State its first ever, right? The team had
Absolutely.
never won a national championship, and Ohio is very, very good at wrestling. There's a lot of pride in the state of Ohio. And for the Ohio State to never win a national title as a wrestling program, to bring that to the university was such a special thing. And it really bonded the guys on the team a lot. It helped me grow as a leader, as well as it helped bring the wrestling community something really special in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, it's unless I guess for Penn State, it's pretty elite company to win a team and individual title. So
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's had this dynasty, right? Between Ohio State and Iowa in 2015 and then 2020 with Iowa. That's been the only blip in them winning the last 15, 14 years, right? And so for us to win it in 2015, was really something spectacular and something that I think will be really hard for Ohio State to do in the next 5 years with how NAL is working and where David Taylor's at and where Penn State's at. It's so tough because now there's a variable with paying athletes and guys transferring, and they can transfer at any time. And they didn't have that when I was at Ohio State. And so it makes it really tough to try to take a team that's top 5 and get over the hump and win it, and for us to do that, because like Ohio State had taken second in like 2008 and like 2004. And so they had done it. They had been close, but us to break through and win that next and win it, right? Because like in the Big Tens, we tied Iowa. Penn State was second. We tied Iowa. And then for us to put out a performance in at nationals was great. It gave us some really good opportunity to say, hey, we're part of a elite company. I think there's only like 10 or 11 programs in the history of college wrestling that have won a national title. So it's been pretty
yeah,
awesome to be a part of that.
yeah. Speaking on your time at Ohio State, how has it shaped you? Not only as an athlete but as a person.
Yeah, I grew a lot in that organization. I was there for 7 or 8 years between being there as a freshman, true freshman, all the way through my redshirt senior year, and then being there 2 or 3 extra years after I graduated from Ohio State, was pursuing the Olympics. And so I learned a lot of what an elite organization looks like. I learned a lot about what coaching styles really connect with kids, what coaching styles I don't really like, and as well as strength and conditioning aspects that I learned from being at Ohio State. And just a lot of like team building and what I would like to do if I ever become a head coach and how I would run an organization like that. Ultimately, I don't know how long Tom's going to be there because he's getting up in age. If God has a plan of me coming back and interviewing for that job, I love to try to be a part of something special and take over the job at some point. But who knows? Only God knows the future. But those are some of the things I took from it. Ohio State's such a massive brand, and it's just really cool to kind of look back and kind of see God's hand through that part of my life. So,
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the new Division One roster limits and how that affects college wrestling?
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. It's tough to dwindle down a roster to 30 guys. During the season, especially in the Big Ten schedule, it's such a grind. And you
Absolutely.
might have your first string and second string out just from injuries during training, injuries during competition, and like you might have to forfeit a weight class because there's a guy that you can't make that weight, or you got 2, 3 guys out, and I just think realistically, 35 to 40 guys isn't a bad roster, you know, having a little bit more extra wiggle room to put different guys in, especially now that you can have like 5 matches if you're a freshman without it counting for one of your years, is such a big deal. And so I don't think it's a great thing. I think, it's kind of forced upon different programs, and it just makes it tough because then you got to cut people, and then there's a lot of hard feelings and people feeling betrayed, as well as a lot of people transferring. And I just don't think it's great because I like loyalty. I think it's a super important thing, and I think where things are trending, there's not a ton of loyalty. It's just whoever can get paid more and whoever can get in a better training situation. I just think
Absolutely.
sometimes it doesn't really show good aspects of the transfer portal and NIL status.
What's your biggest advice to, high school guys making that transition to college?
Man, I think a lot of it comes down to where you feel that the coaching staff really cares about you, not only as an athlete, but as a person, and who's going to be there in your corner through the highs and lows. Because there's a lot of highs and lows during the season and even in the off season, as well as when you graduate, if they're just still be your friend, it's
Right.
not just a business relationship. They're going to try to help you. If you stay in the sport, if you transition out, they're going to just be there through it all, and so that's super important. Finding a good training, because there's everyone runs their program a little different. You want to find, if you're going on these visits, you want to find a place that you have good workout partners and a good environment of positive people that are training hard and doing the right stuff, that are doing the right stuff out of the room, that have the same goal of winning a conference championship, winning a national championship, and trying to win team titles, you know, and having a good backing from the university. And so that, and just like knowing what your limits are, like how far do you want to travel to go to this place, right? Like when I was at Ohio State, the thing that made Ohio State the right fit for me is I was very close with my immediate family. And so I didn't want to travel that far. I was looking at Minnesota, I was looking at Iowa, I was looking at Oklahoma State. Ohio State was up and coming at the time, and they had a good RTC program, a good environment, and they were only 2 hours from my house. So it made the difference to stay closer.
Where do you see yourself in your club team in the next few years?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm still putting some things together right now. I have this coach that I've been training with the last week and a half. His name's Coach Herman. He's a super great dude. He's trained guys like Aaron Pico and Morgan McIntosh and a couple other really good wrestlers. And he's helping me kind of put together some clientele as well as train me and help me get ready for this match. And so, to be honest, I see myself being a really good impact on some of these elite level high school kids around the area, as well as continuing developing as an elite level guy competing in these cards, and building up kind of my resume and understanding all the aspects of running a successful club. And yeah, I might be working a little bit with the training lab on the side as well, because I've talked to Coach Calavito. He's a great dude. He's worked with a lot of elite guys. He wants to kind of help me learn his own formula to getting guys into their peak. And so, there's a lot of ideas right now that I'm putting together, but I could see myself running my own strength conditioning / wrestling club and gym. And
Absolutely.
that could be something I'm really passionate about that could be successful. So we'll see, that's kind of my plan right now.
Well, Coach, best of luck on August 30th, and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk, and yeah, follow in the next couple matches. Thanks for the support, and yeah, good luck with the podcast, and hope to connect with you again sometime shortly.